All right, well, welcome to Attune to the Moon for the week of April, I guess technically the 13th to the 20, no, wait, from April 13th to the 20th. I did have that right. um, my name is Jana Roemer, and this is Nadia Noir on Instagram or Diamante. I always just want to call you Nadia Noir. Um, And this is kind of an intense week in the astrology. I don't know if you guys are feeling it. Are you guys feeling it? A little bit. So today we have the Sun sextile Mars. And maybe I'll let you talk about this, Nadia, since we just started right there. I know you just wrote about it on Instagram.
hmm Yeah, okay. Sun sextile Mars. This is really interesting because you can read about the whole piece of it on Instagram, but I wrote it down. So we have Sun sextile Mars, and then Sun is sextile Jupiter on the 15th. Then we're going into oh my gosh, I wrote
It's Mercury and
sorry.
Mars are sextiling. Or
And
sorry,
then
Mercury
Mercury
is
and Mars.
sextile both Jupiter and Mars.
Yeah, and then we're gonna have Mars trine Jupiter. So we have this like amazing little pocket of active, reactive, proactive energy that I think started off with the new moon. Like the new moon was an inception of all of this energy. And then it's progressed into today, and it's moving throughout the week until we get to the 19th, and then we move fully over into the receptive, feminine, yin energy of Taurus. So I have a lot to say about the sort of juxtaposition of the masculine and the feminine as we're moving through this week, and how we have so many beautiful, positive transits this week working with the masculine energy. So for me, the intensity doesn't really feel like it's intensity that is negative. It's intensity that is like helping to drive us forward. It feels very, if I taught the meditation this morning, that was like using the element of fire. And that's what I feel like. We're just cultivating that inner fire. So at the Sun sextile Mars today, it really is this beginning, I think for me, just sort of wrap it up, sum it up, is the beginning of a new adventure for us all to come together. I don't know if that makes any sense. Sorry, when I'm, but I'm so much better when I'm writing stuff down. I don't know, I'm saying it out loud sometimes when it comes to the Astro. But it's a really powerful energy of, I think, camaraderie. That's why I say coming together. When we have our sun, the ego, and Mars, which is action and direction and drive, we're ready to put, like I said in the Instagram post, put our foot on the gas, ready to go, ready to make changes, just ready to let go of all of our old limiting beliefs and do something different. So I think we're in this good place, like starting off today with that, and this being a new class, because that's what we're all doing. We're coming together, ready to go, ready to do something different.
Yeah, and I think we have to remember that when we're coming to the end of a sign, there's like a culmination. And just before the sun moves into Taurus, which happens on Monday, the sun comes to the 29th degree of Aries. And so if we look at like what is Aries and what is that archetype and how do we get the most out of this time, it is that cultivation of activating our inner fire to start something new, to start the spark of something. And then like Nadia was saying, with like Jupiter and Mars and Mercury and the sun all kind of conspiring in really helpful energy. And it started on Monday, but Tuesday and most of Wednesday, we have both the sun and the moon in their exalted signs, which means they're the happiest, most joyous, most powerful, most generous. Like this, it's like the most sunny of the sun and the most moony of the moon in its happiest, like best day ever state. And the sun is in Aries getting things started. And then the moon is like, well, let's ground this into reality and let's like make something out of it. Let's like manifest, that's what fixed earth, we plant those seeds into the soil and we nurture them just enough. You put enough sunshine on it and water and tend to the space that you're building, and we can really bring something to life. And I've been doing this project of the 144 different sun moon combinations, and this is one of the most potent sun moon combinations out of all 144 sun moon combinations to initiate and start something that will actually have really good long term growth or like longevity to it. So um, the other thing that I thought that was really interesting is that Pluto is having quite a bit of a say this week, though, too. And Nadia touched on like letting go of limiting beliefs. And so, well, at the same time, we have this really big thrust forward of momentum to get something going. We also have Mars coming in. We just came out of Pluto. We just came out of Pluto squaring Venus. And then on Friday, we have Pluto squaring the sun. And then on Saturday, we have Pluto squaring Mercury. And so if we look at Venus's relationships, abundance, prosperity, our values, our pleasure, our joy, all of the things that are lovely and we tend to want, that our desires, getting like a purge and a cleanse. And then on Friday, it's the sun, so a little bit of an ego purge and cleanse. And then on Sunday, it's our communication gets purged and cleansed. And I love when these things line up with some of the most common like cliches or natural rhythms of society. But like, it's spring, you guys. It's spring cleaning. And to me, this Pluto action over this week is like, what story do you no longer want to carry forth with you? What relationships have finally seen the dawning of their day, or the end of their day? What stories that you're telling yourself? What blocks to your intuition or your ability to speak up for yourself? Like, all those things, we can wash them out and cleanse them out by getting on board with Pluto. If we don't get on board with Pluto, Pluto's going to take you down kicking and screaming. And that's where I see the intensity of the week. Like, Pluto will be like, this relationship isn't good for you, and you might not be the one that's ending it, but it maybe will end. Have you ever, like, in the long run, you're like, oh, I couldn't see the toxicity in that relationship, and they ended up breaking my heart, but it actually was the best thing for me. And that doesn't mean to just be love. I've had my hardest breakups of my life has been friend breakups, And so that is also happening at the same time. And so when I see this, it's almost like peeling out of the driveway and being like, sayonara, like, I'm going this way now. Like, this is the direction. This is my motivation. This is where all my attention, energy, and brilliance is going to go into this. And I'm just going to leave this stuff behind in my dust. And so that's kind of what I see happening this week. Do you want to add more, Nadia?
Yeah, I mean, with that Sun square Pluto, I mean, I have a different relationship with Mercury and Pluto, because to me, Mercury and Pluto are friends. So even if it's kind of like, even if they're square, they're sort of helping each other out, because Mercury is, the psychopomp that's leading everyone into Hades. But the Sun square Pluto on the 16th, I think it's a really interesting segue, because if we're thinking about the energies that we're working with right now, we're working with Aries, Gemini, in terms of the South Node, Sagittarius, and Aquarius, and all of those energies are masculine, right? So this is where a majority of the energy is happening right now. And then Venus is in Aries as well until tomorrow, until when it moves into Taurus. But right now, at this very moment, we have this like this superfluous masculine energy. And then when we hit, like, when we go into this sort of Venusian lunar cycle, we're going to get the sun in Taurus, Mercury in Taurus, Venus in Taurus. It's like a complete, and Uranus is in Taurus. And by the 22nd, I believe, and then the 30th, a lot of the different stuff that's happening in Taurus is going to transition, and it hits that Uranus degree. So I think of this as like, this is sort of the last vestige of, not the last vestige, but this is sort of that masculine energy that makes us feel this intensity is sort of like revving itself up, showing us, giving us sort of like this extra, okay, like, this is when you put your foot on the gas. This is when you when you go, this is when you sure purge. And then this, you come into the Taurus energy and you're planting. So I think of it, there's this Eve Ensler thing on TED Talk where she, from like 2010, where she talks about the rebellion of the girl, or not the rebellion of girl, that's my own words, but the like the girl, the power of girl. And I think I'm thinking of this as sort of the lead up to that. And that's why I feel like we have these like heavy Pluto aspects almost, because Pluto actually is in Capricorn, which is a feminine sign. So it's like we have all this masculine stuff in and it's squaring this feminine sign. And so even when the sun is square and it's under the Gemini moon that this is happening. And when I looked up the pagan astrology for that exact Gemini moon, it was the little sister's moon, which I thought was perfect because we go into Venus and Taurus. We have this Gemini moon that's called this little sister's moon. Then the sun is in Aries. You know, Aries is ruled by Mars. So like Aries is like the big brother to Eris and all the other war goddesses. Square Pluto and Capricorn, which is feminine. And this to me is like the ego meets the ego death. It's like, what have we been obsessed with, fascinated with? What has created intensity in our lives? What ways have we been self-destructive? And where our fears of the unknown meet what you think you know, sort of like playing with our fears and what we think we know, and realizing maybe the unknown is where, if we let go of trying to be in control of everything, trying to be the boss, right? Aries and Capricorn are also both cardinal signs. So when we try to dial down the intensity, try not to be so bossy, don't give into our egos, just walk away and let shit go. That's when we can really sink into the mastery of this Pluto and Capricorn, this feminine energy that is coming through the Pluto and Capricorn, Uranus and Taurus, which we're meeting up with. So like, I don't think of Pluto as scary in this situation. I think of Pluto as the balance. Pluto as like the is where we're finding some sort of like, what's the word, rectification in some way, you know. And without that Pluto energy, we would sort of just, it would be like a massive dust storm. It would be all of this, you know, this earth energy coming in and like this air energy. And then we have the Mars and Gemini trine Jupiter in Aquarius, which is like such an exalted energy, right? Jupiter loves trines, and the sun is exalted in Aries. So, but then you think of like, it's just the way the air and the earth is just pushing up dust. And so the groundedness, the softness of Pluto and Capricorn, which we probably haven't seen that for a while because we're so used to it sort of like hitting us over the head. It's because I think that if a planet is hitting us over a head, personally or as a collective, it's because we're not seeing the whole, we're not understanding the wholeness of what it can bring to us. So that's where the intensity comes from, is because we're pushing in the opposite direction or trying to pull away. But yeah, so I think to me, it's about this like yin yang, like flow of the masculine into the feminine, and then us feeling really connected to the power of the girl. And in Eve Ensler, when she talks about it, she talks about how everybody, male, female, whatever gender you identify with, has like the girl cell inside of us. You know, it's okay. And they had like, it's so beautiful. You should check it out. But that's kind of what I feel like is coming with this. And it's, even if there is these intense Pluto stuff, like we we're looking at the whole picture, there's so much more magic happening. There's all these sextiles and this beautiful, like really exaggerated trine that's like, you know, the point, if this is hard right now, it's supposed to be hard so that you like feel grateful after this for all of the everything that you've had to deal with, everything you've had to do, everything to get to this point. You're like, I did that. I was brave. I was courageous. I had the confidence to do it, you know?
Yeah, and that's where I guess I mean, like, if you have Pluto on your side, it's just a really helpful energy to help you with the releasing and the letting go and finding that balance.
Yeah.
I'm also really fascinated with this idea or with this relationship that we have right now in the sky with Mercury and Mars in mutual reception with each other. And so Mercury is currently in Aries, and Aries is ruled by Mars. And Mars is currently in Gemini, and Gemini is ruled by Mercury. And these two, what it means in mutual reception is like two planets are in each other's signs. And the way I describe this in the new moon circle was like if I was at Nadia's house and Nadia was at my house and I was like, "Hey Nadia, I wanted to bake something," I would call Nadia and be like, "Hey Nadia, where's your blender, your mix master? I need your cast iron pot, and how does this oven work?" or whatever it is. And Nadia, in her expertise of her home, would be like, "Yeah, Jenny, just do it like this, da 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 da, no big deal." And then a little while later, Nadia might call me and be like, "Hey Jana, there's a lot of trees. Do you have any good trails around here? Like, I want to go for a walk in the woods." And then I would be able to tell her because she's calling me for expertise in my home. And so Mars and Mercury are sitting in mutual reception with each other. And Mars is really being encouraged to ask the question, why? 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 That's what Gemini asks, is why. And Mercury is really being tempted to take action because Mars just like goes after what it wants. It's like this penetrating, passionate planet that just goes for what it wants. And so we have to remember though that this why is being asked from the perspective of like really penetrative whys. Like, why is this like this? Why is this like that? Why is the sky blue? You think of like that little kid that always like there's never enough there's never an end to the possible question, the possible possibilities of asking the question why. And I think that this is a really cool thing for us to be contemplating right now. Like in the stars, they're saying, ask why, ask why, ask why. And then we're supposed to like say something or do something with that information. So I think that's something that's really interesting because they're not the Mercury moves fairly quickly. I don't have the date on hand. Maybe Nadia, you do, because I know you're doing writing the ingresses. But Mercury moves out of on the 19th already. So we're just till the end of this week. We have this mutual reception active. And so I think maybe one of the ways that we can apply this is if you're looking at some of this yin yang balance, like Nadia was talking about, or what I was where I was referring to it with, we're leaving something behind to step more fully into somewhere that we're going. Maybe it is to question, like, well, why have I been holding on to this belief system? Or why have I been holding on to this vampiric relationship? Or why have I been holding on to whatever it is, this habit or this way or whatever? Why am I holding on to how many likes I get on my Instagram post? Like you can ask the question, like, why am I behaving in the way that I am, in order to really refine what you are stepping into and how you are stepping into the direction that you're going now. So kind of an exciting week. Another reason why I named it as intense is because there's a lot of opportunities, because we are just initiating the lunar new year. So there's a lot of opportunities for like where we're going and how we can be more masterful in how we are creating our lives. And one of the big topics that falls under Aries in this last week, Aries doesn't really follow anybody. Anybody here in Aries, if you can just raise your hand, Aries, sun, moon, or rising. Yeah, you guys are like trailblazers. You do it your own way. You don't really wait for permission. You just go for it. You're like, I think this is the right thing to do. And you just like jump in, worry about consequences later. And ultimately, that comes from this innate desire to do what's best for myself, like to be the best, but also to do the best. Like Aries, I believe Aries really, really, really wants to do the best they can. And especially when we're looking at a more exalted version of Aries, they're like warriors for the people, like Aries is like, I will fight for justice, or like I will, because justice, Libra is the opposite sign. And so they bring that in. They can be quite incredible warriors for people. And so like activism and all that kind of stuff. And so I really believe that part of this last week of Aries season is for us to remember, like, how do you show up as the best of yourself, or to get the best out of yourself? And then to make sure that that's coming from a really balanced place and not an egoic place, Nadia was mentioning ego meets the ego death. And that's a big part of Mars energy. We see it both in Scorpio and in Aries. We see a lot of ego. Any fire sign, we see a lot of ego. And that's the Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. But then how ego is not inherently bad, right? Ego is, if we really break down what ego is, all ego does is define me, right? Like ego just helps me to know who I am separate from everything else in its most basic form. Then we have all these other connotations of ego, like I am the best, I'm better than everybody, I'm superior, or whatever, you can put it there. Or the ego that's like shrinking, like I'm never going to be good enough, everybody's better than me, whatever. There's such a massive spectrum of expression of ego. But to have the healthiest expression of ego, and again, this is a play on some of the key words that come out of Aries archetype, is in lots of time in pop culture, they'll be like, Aries is so self-centered. But really, it's like, how centered can I be within myself so that I'm not acting from ego? I'm acting from the like very spark of the fire, the very center of the fire. Like you actually want to find the hot coal in there. That would be a very mature expression of Aries, is to be so centered within yourself that you are doing what's best for yourself, but also with others in mind. So finding
Mm.
that self-centeredness, or to be centered within self, just playing those words slightly different, is a big mission of these last days of Aries season as well.
Mm.
So, and another thing that I find interesting with the astrology, we say that it's the baby of the zodiac. Aries is the baby of the zodiac. But also the first house, or the rising sign, contains 100% of the archetypes within it. And when we're looking at natural astrology, the first house is Aries, right? Like if we put them back to their default. And in that first house, it actually contains everything. So if we do Aries really, really, really well, it makes every other sign's expression healthier. Okay? Because just think of that. If you're centered within yourself, you're so much more able to be with everything. If you're not centered within yourself, everything is unstable. Does that make sense? So I hope you guys all have a really good week. I hope you find this fire. Personally, because Mercury in Aries, the Mercury practice is a breathwork practice. I don't know if you guys have had a chance to do it yet, but I did that this morning, and I've been doing it every morning just as a way to get into my body and do the breath work and then just be focused. And the idea behind the universal breath practice for Mercury in Aries is to actually tend to that fire inside to help with focus. So we start at the base, we work our way up, and then we go right back down into your own internal fire. So yeah. So Nadia, do you want to add anything else before we jump into some charts?
I think I just want to validate what you said about the breath work, especially coming into the 16th and 17th, because the Mars is in Gemini, that's air. Jupiter is in Aquarius, that's air. So we're working with the element of air. You're working with the breath, and the air in the tarot cards is the mind, the intellect. So really it's coming back to your own mind, your own intellect, how you are activating that. And then we think of Gemini as like a mirror to the masses being Aquarius. And one thing I just want to say about these sextiles, all these sextiles coming up, is that if there's any time for action and expansion, it is absolutely 1000% now. But it's but do it like at a slow pace, because this trine itself is actually really slow. So this is like your time to say, like, kind of like dip your toe in the water, pull it out, put your whole foot in the water, pull it out, like, and be aware of your actions, be aware of your words, because your actions and your words and everything you're doing right now is creating magic. So you want to activate that in like the most the most impeccable way possible, right? You know, this is, and if this is a time, this is like because we're working with Gemini energy, that mercurial energy. And then the next on the 16th, and the next day we have those Mercury sextiles. We often get the question of like people, don't want to focus on one thing and they want to be able to scatter their energy in the wind. And this is actually a really good transit to do more than one thing at a time, but to do it slowly so that you're doing it like with conscientious energy and conscientious breath as you're doing it, being like really intentional with it. So even though everything is moving super fast in terms of like how inspired you might be in your mind, or how intense it might feel if you're not ready to meet some of the energy of Pluto for whatever reason, and that makes you become like obsessive, and that makes you become controlling. I feel like all you really need to do is like stabilize yourself, slow down, integrate what's happening. Don't react in the moment to people if they're making you angry, especially on that Sun square Pluto. Like just keep yourself, all this energy that is so vibrant inside of you, like keep it contained, because what you're doing is you're like slowly building up, and then during Taurus season it will continue to slowly build up until Taurus is all about to me abundance. So it's like this is when stuff begins to really this is like your week to do the magic, to make the abundance, whatever that means to you, happen. But you have to slow down. You cannot do it fast. If you do it fast, that's when Pluto's going to hit you in the face and be like, slow the fuck down, like this is where you see the fear of failure comes through, is because if you see yourself fail once because you're not doing something with intention, then you think you can never do it again, right? But you
Well,
can.
and because it has so much potency in the manifestation, like careful what you wish for, right? Like that's where that
Yeah.
impeccability is so important. Like get really clear, like this is what I want, this is how I see it, this is, and I even think you could put a little bit of time into your manifestations, which isn't something I typically do. But like when you're making your goals, like short, mid, long-term goals, and just have like a really clean and clear map, and then get those seeds into the soil. And actually, you'll
Yeah.
see when we do the Taurus Astro Nidra this year, we are going to be planting seeds in the body. And so you might even want to prepare yourself to find like that perfect word, or the like what your Sankalpa or that seed word is going to be for you for that practice. Because life
Yeah.
chart is slower in Taurus. It's slower, it's more present. It's just amazing. But
And
yes.
this is going to be such a slow, nice Taurus season, I think, because not it happens like midway or towards the end, but then Jupiter is going to move into Pisces on May 19th, right? And we're going to have Cancer and Mars, I believe. Maybe I'm wrong. Then we have Pisces, Taurus. It's like I don't know. I've been looking forward to this time of year from April into the middle of July for such a long time, because the collective Astro is so nice. Yeah, of course there's days when we feel like shit. Yeah, of course we're still in the middle of a pandemic, but like I
Yeah.
think things are becoming softer, sweeter, more tender. And I've seen so many people around me just fall into the fold of their karma because of that Pluto and Capricorn sitting at that Capricorn degree for such a long time, pinging us all in different ways. But it's sort of like, we're just tired of being tired, and that's this period of time where like we get to just be um we allow ourselves to unfold, or allow ourselves to breathe, or allow ourselves to be like a loaf of bread, and we just sit there until we're ready to bake.
That's so Taurus. You just have to make
Yeah.
it about food. Just a little
Yeah.
correction. Jupiter moves into Pisces on the 13th, so you don't have to wait all the way to the
Oh,
next.
13th.
Yeah,
Yeah, you don't have to wait. Yeah.
yeah. So I think we should jump in because I know you guys want your charts. You want to see what's going on in your charts. And so I'm just looking at who's here and some of the charts that we picked. And thank you for putting your chart information in there. What we're going to do is we'll start with one, and we have a few that we pulled from the options there, and we'll just start with one and then cruise through. And I'm going to share my screen. So we're going to end the YouTube at this point. So if anybody's interested in getting these little mini readings, feel free to join us at attunetothemoon.com and join the live class. Otherwise, yeah, we'll see you next week. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen.